Hi everyone, my name is Marlene and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, we are going to be looking at Autogen, which is a really exciting framework for building multi-agent solutions and particularly more autonomous solutions for AI agents. If you don't know what an AI agent is, that's totally okay. We're going to talk a little bit about what agents are, and we're going to look at an example of how to use Autogen with another framework called Swarm to build out teams of agents or multi-agent systems. If you are interested in that, please keep watching. So I think a good place for us to start when we are trying to understand what AI agents are is really to understand what the word agency itself means. So a lot of people, I've heard people on Twitter or on Blue Sky saying that they like high agency people or that they are a high agency person. And what that basically means is that there's someone who has the ability to make choices or decisions that influence the outcomes of their life. So making a decision that actually causes some sort of an action. Other word, in the dictionary, it also talks about an institution or an organization that provides some sort of a service or completes some sort of a task. And I think that's a great way for us to understand what agency means. For me, when I'm trying to put this then into the context of LLMs or into the context of AI, one way I like to think about it is that in the past, when we were using things like ChatGPT, we really were thinking about just chatting to an LLM, getting feedback on ideas, whatever. I know a lot of people are, talking to AI about their love lives or whatever else it is you're getting advice about. But you're chatting with the LLM and the LLM isn't really taking any action on your behalf. It's usually giving you feedback on what you should do or information you're looking for. With AI agents, we're really moving away from this idea of chatting to an LLM to actually expecting it to take some sort of an action on our behalf. So we're moving from this concept of just chatting to this idea of taking action. Okay, so now we can go ahead and jump into our Jupyter notebook and try to understand what exactly Autogen is and what Swarm is as well. So the first thing is Autogen itself. Autogen is a framework for building AI agents and applications. Like I mentioned earlier, I think Autogen is particularly good for multi-agent solutions. So you can use it with a lot of other things. You can even use Autogen with LangChain, for example. And it's a great framework when you're trying to build out much larger systems. And this website, I put a link here to the website that you can go to. The notebook that I am walking through today actually takes from an example that's already on the Autogen page. I'll put a link to that in the description that you can take a look on your own after to see that. But I've made some changes and we'll talk about which changes in the notebook I've made specifically, and we'll also share that code for you. I'll put it into the notebook into my GitHub and share that link as well in the description. So the next thing then we can talk about is Swarm and what that is. So Swarm is not a framework like Autogen. Instead, it's a multi-agent design pattern that was first introduced by OpenAI, I think last year. And it's really interesting. It allows you to create a team of agents where each agent can hand off tasks to other agents based on the capabilities of the other agents. How does it work specifically? You can imagine that all of these agents are in this group chat and all of them share the same context. They can read all of the responses from the other agents. They can read the user inputs. And so when a speaker agent or the main agent that's completing a specific task, maybe one agent starts off with the task, when they feel like they've completed their task, they will make a decision based off of the message history and the context and the response they're going to give. They'll make a decision on which is the next agent they should hand over to complete the next task to get them towards their goal, to move them forward towards their goal. So to put this in clear, I think the best way to make sense of this is to actually go ahead and write some code and see an example of what this looks like. So for this example, we are going to be looking at a stock research example, or, I think this is a great example of like an investment team that is going to give us advice in terms of whether or not we should invest in a specific company based off of the stock and the news surrounding this company as well. So here in the image, we can see a picture that kind of explains what our multi-agent system is going to look like. So in the system, we are going to have these 4 agents that we can see on the screen. The first agent is just going to be the planner, like I said, and it's just going to delegate the task based off of each of the other agents' expertise. And then we're going to have a financial agent or financial analyst agent, and this agent will take the name of a company or the stock name of a company, and it's going to look online for the current data on stock for this company. It's going to search on the internet for that information, and then we also have the news analyst, which is also going to look online for news information. And then finally, we will have a writer agent that will take the research from the financial analyst with the stock values, the current stock values, and the news agent, and combine that into a report that will also give us a recommendation in terms of whether or not we should invest in a stock at this particular time. So that's pretty much what the process is going to look like. You can go ahead and read. I'll share the notebook in more detail, the step-by-step of what each agent is going to do. But first of all, we are going to go ahead and install some packages, and then there's an extra function that I have added that is not in the Autogen notebook, and this function is just a Bing helper function that will allow us to be able to look for information online. So we'll look at that just now. In terms of the Python packages we're using the Azure AI Inference SDK, which just allows us to access GPT-4o, and also will allow us to access the Bing grounding search tool. So this, we're using something called Agent Service, and then we're also using Azure Identity to sign into Azure and access our resources, and then we're using python.env for environment variables. So going to just run that, and that runs pretty quickly because I have run it before. Here we have the execute research function, and this is a function that's basically, like I said, a Bing helper function. So we talked about how we are going to look at a news analyst and a financial analyst, and both of those need access to the internet because we want real-time financial data in terms of how much is the stock right now, etc. And we want real-time news, what's the latest news on our companies, how it's doing, how that relates to the stock as well. So in this example, this is code that I've copied from somewhere else, and we'll again share the notes. We start off by creating this project client, which just accesses Azure AI Foundry, which will allow us to access our models. And here, the next line we have is this prompt template from Prompty, which loads in a system prompt that will help us be able to, when Bing is searching online, it needs some instructions on what specifically it needs to be looking for. And so we're loading in something called a Prompty file. So if you haven't heard of Prompty, let's take a quick look at, I created 2 Prompty files. Let's look at this researcher Prompty file. And this researcher Prompty, I created a researcher Prompty file and a news one. So the researcher one is the one that's going to help our financial analyst agent, and it is going to research the stock market data given a symbol using a web research tool. So we're telling it that we want you to look online. Again, it's just a system prompt that's telling the model, this is what I want you to return with the tool, which is that Bing search tool. And so it needs to return the price, the volume, per ratio, and market cap. But again, you can edit this Prompty file however you want. The main thing here is that we want that system prompt to interact with the user prompt as well. So I have made this into a variable so that it will either look for the prompt, the stock information, or the news information. And if we look here, these are the tools that we will be giving our financial analyst and our news analyst access to. So our financial analyst will have this get stock tool. And again, like you can see here, there's that execute research function that's being called, and it's going to call specifically the researcher promptee, and then this execute function here will call the news promptee. So when these are run, when these tools are going to be run by the different agents, they will go online and search using Bing for their specific data. So now we can move on to actually creating the agents. And to be able to do that, the main thing that you want to import is this assistant agent class. And we're going to use that assistant agent class is what you'll use to create each specific agent. Then we have some other things that we're importing here that you will see later on. First thing that we want to do is create the planner agent. So to do that, we can say planner equals assistant agent. And let's go ahead and put in a planner as the name of the agent. And then, and the nice thing is Copilot is filling stuff out for me, which is great. So we can do that. And then what we want to say is handoffs. That's the next thing we want to do. And with the handoffs, we put in the agents that we want the planner to be able to hand off to. So like I mentioned before, the agents should be able to make a decision based off of what's the context history, which other agent is the next best one to hand off to. And you can specify using this parameter here, which specific agents an agent that you are building can hand off to. So we're saying the planner can hand off to the financial analyst. It can hand, I wanted that. Yes, great. Thank you, Copilot. You can hand those over to the financial analyst, the news analyst, and the writer. So like we saw in our example image here, that's what we expect, is that the planner should be able to hand over to these. But then each of these we only want them to hand off back to the planner. So if we go back, this is great. We have that. And then we also want to go ahead and put in a system message to be aware of here too. So that is this planning agent done. Okay, so that's the planner agent. And then the next one we want is the financial analyst agent. And here we can say financial analyst and use the same. And we are going to call it the financial analyst. Similar vibe. We're defining the name. We are defining the model client. Copilot almost got it right. We're going to say it can only hand off to the planner. Put in the system message, we put in the handoff message in the model client. What we know is that this is going to be the financial analyst agent, and we want to give it some tools. So we're also going to pass through a tools, create the tools parameter, and this agent is going to use the get stock data tool to be able to complete its tasks. So that's what the financial analyst is going to do. I think that is all that we need to have that done. The next agent we are going to create is our news analyst agent. Copilot is really going to help me out, I think, here. Two first ones that we have. And then finally, we want the writer agent to be created. Copilot, again, thanks for the save. With the writer agent, we don't necessarily want, with the writer agent, we don't necessarily want to pass any tools because it's just going to use the LLM directly. And so this is all we need to be able to create our agents. The next thing that we want to do is we want to define a terminate message so that the system, Swarm as a whole, knows when to stop and that everything has been completed, or the goal has been completed. And then we also want to write down the code to be able to actually run the multi-agent solution using Swarm. So to be able to do that, let's go ahead and write out, we're going to call this text termination. That should not be that text. Oh my goodness, text termination. And that is going to equal text termination, mention termination, and this is the word terminate, is the word that we are going to have Swarm look out for and stop the system when this word is there. And then we're going to create the research team. And we're going to say equals Swarm. And the research team is going to be made off of some participants. And those are our participants. And then we are also going to have our termination condition is going to be termination. Yeah. And I think that is all we need for Swarm specifically. And then after that, we are going to go ahead and define our task for our system to use. And we're just going to write the string. So we're going to say conduct market research. I actually want to say market research on NVIDIA. And then let's say NVIDIA stock, and let me know if it's a good time to invest in it. Okay. That is what we are going to then be sending as our task. And then to actually run this, we're going to use keyword there. I'm going to say research team. And then we can say run stream. So we can see the stream of what is going on. And we're going to say task equals task. Okay. Now I think this should work. Let's go ahead. Now I think we are good to be able to run our system. So first we can see that, okay, it is seeing that it needs to conduct the market research for NVIDIA. It first starts with the planner. The planner knows the first thing it should do is transfer to the financial analyst. So the planner makes that decision, chooses the financial analyst. This financial analyst now has initiated this research for looking for stock data online. And we can see that stock data has been successfully completed. And then once it noted that it has the results that it needed, it transferred back to the planner. And then the role of the planner is adopted immediately by the agent. This is like, I like that it says immediately all the time. I thought that was kind of funny. But then once that has been run, then the planner knows, okay, now we need to look for the news analyst and have that run. So it adopts the role of the news analyst. And then the news analyst successfully goes, looks for the news that it needs to find on NVIDIA. We can see that on the screen, and that worked successfully. Then once the news analyst is done and it's found all of the information it does, it transfers back to, it sends a handoff message transferring back to the planner agent. And then the planner agent knows that, okay, I need to transfer over to the writer agent. And then once the writer agent has been selected, it gives us a summary here saying that, it's creating this report. It's giving us some financial analysis, where right now the price of NVIDIA is 139. A steal, honestly. The market cap is pretty good, 700 billion. And news overview, we can see some information there about the fiscal earnings report. It's scheduled for the 26th. So let's keep our calendars open for that. And then investment outlook. And it says, with a solid outlook tied to thriving AI markets, NVIDIA is poised to perform well in Q4. The timing of investment depends on the risk tolerance of the investment. Those willing to take short-term risks may find opportunity in the period just before or after the earnings announcement, considering the potential market volatility. So it's saying to us that maybe we should consider either waiting, investing right now before the earnings call, because that might mean it's higher after, or waiting until after as well. So it just gives us that information here. And then finally, the planner will produce this terminate message that will stop the system completely. So that is how our system functions, or our multi-agent system functions with Swarm and Autogen. I think that was hopefully a helpful tutorial for you. If you have any questions, please go ahead and ask them in the comments. I will make sure to leave the notebook that I walked through for you as well, a link to the notebook and also a link to the page with other Autogen and Swarm examples. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you did, and I will see you in the next one.